Greetings, sailors! It's been a while since I've done one of these, but, you know, it's the election tomorrow, so I'm going to be bad at carriers and moan about politics, basically. And if that doesn't sound like your cup of tea, then I don't blame you for bailing. But if you are in the UK, I hope you go out and vote, word that starts with a V, vote tomorrow, and, you know, vote for the party that doesn't seem to be headed by a sociopath, or at least someone displaying sociopathic tendencies, who also is known for lying a lot and has in fact been fired from his job for lying twice. And, you know, not to mention the 88% of Tory ads on Facebook over a week's period, or whatever the sample was, that were reported to also be full of lies and misinformation. So it's not like Boris Johnson and the Tory party are all liars. It's just at the moment the top Tories all seem to be rather objectionable liars, and the party itself also seems to be quite happy with that for the most part, apart from some outliers. God, how I think we all wish Rory Stewart had won that, or someone else vaguely halfway sensible, although I think he was the only vaguely halfway sensible person out of that lineup of candidates. Anyway, never mind. Well, I say never mind, that sounds like I'm dismissing the whole thing. No, I'm going to moan about it some more, and I'm also going to be bad at carriers, and I'm going to play this, which is, as it turns out, one of the worst tier 8 carriers, and I didn't even know. I don't know if it's as bad as the Graf Zeppelin, but it's fairly not good. So, for non-UK people, which is a fair amount of you, yeah, we're having a general election that was triggered early, and it's mostly to do with Brexit, which has been a joy. And, you know, the Tories' central plank has been, let's get Brexit done, except that conveniently ignores the fact that it's not going to be done at all, and it's actually just the start of the process. But, you know, why let little things like the truth get in the way? Because the Tory party sure hasn't. Oh, Jesus. I don't know what the result's going to be, honestly. There is going to be so much tactical voting tomorrow going on. I'm probably just going to be glued to the internet all day watching results as they come in. Where I live is fairly certain to be an SNP safe seat. And actually the question of the Scottish constituency seats generally is if we're going to have a repeat of, was it 97? I think it was 97, the Labour landslide, when there was not a single Tory MP left in Scotland. And it's 13 seats. That 13 seats, you know, if that were to happen again, that could make a difference. But nobody knows, really. The polls have it kind of fairly close. But they do still have the Tories worryingly in a lead. But this is also not helped by the fact that the vast majority of our printed national press has been incredibly partisan. Like, whatever, this is particularly applicable to US folks, but I'm sure most people know the reputation of, like, Fox News and Breitbart and, you know, the outlets that call themselves news but are just so very barely. They're basically more akin to, you know, propaganda outlets. Although the US, you know, non-right-wing mainstream media seems to be just as bad, only in different ways. But that's basically our printed press. I think the probably closest comparison would be oh god, what's the really terrible one? There's two. There's like the New York Times is, like, you know, the authoritative one, and then there's the New York Post, which is like the trashy one, right? And I think the opposite is true of the Washington, like, Post and Times, or whatever the other one is called that isn't the Washington Post. But yeah, that's wow, that got loud. That's most of our press. which has been basically giving the Conservative Party a fairly free ride because, surprise, surprise, the people that control the press, that not that many people, are unabashedly pro-Tory, and that's because, you know, they have giant filthy piles of money, which is more money than anyone would need in a lifetime, but they want more money because, I don't know, reasons. And so they're all, you know, incredibly biased, not even trying to hide it. And then the fresh fun thing has been the BBC, which is supposed to be impartial. I mean, there's been this noted bias over the years towards whatever the party of government has been, but there basically were some rule changes made to... Oh, that's okay. Let's actually call them back just so we can... Daka. I really wish you could get the sector thing going when you have planes up, at the very least, even if you can't really control much else. But yeah, really, this is just kind of a waste of planes. I don't know why people do this these days. Congratulations, you hit me with one torpedo. It happens sometimes. You'll get a player that just sends their planes at you over and over again, and all you can think of is, but why? You could actually do something useful for the team. Oh, he's gonna get another hit. He got lucky. Oh noes. Well, that's me out of the game. Anyway, yeah, what was I ranting about? Oh yeah, the BBC. This is just a proper old ranty video. I did one of these before the last election in 2017. And, oh boy, it turned out I was wrong. I thought it'd be bad under, you know, if there was any kind of Tory government and there was a Tory minority government propped up by the DUP, who, you know, literally believe dinosaurs were walking around on the earth 6,000 years ago, or, you know, it's that level of nonsense. Yeah, it turned out to be far worse than I thought it would be, because we've ended up with Boris Johnson as Prime Minister, who was quite happy to rail against Gordon Brown becoming PM without a general election, and then also equally happy to become PM himself under basically the same circumstances. Not that he's a massive hypocrite or anything like that. No, we haven't established that at all. But the BBC, basically there was a rule change in, oh god, when was it, 2014, 2015, basically under Cameron's government, and that rule change was inherently political in that of the board of governors of the BBC, basically, you know, are responsible for shaping the overall like output to some extent. I mean, not the day-to-day stuff, obviously, but they're basically, outside of the Director General, the people that are responsible for running the BBC. And they changed it so that they appoint 4 people to the Board of Governors of the BBC, and those 4 people then appoint other people. So we've ended up with a marked swing to the right, which has become incredibly obvious during this election season. And we get very uncritical coverage of the Tories. Not universally uncritical, but if you look at the output as a whole, the way they frame things, the, you know, stories they do and don't choose to cover, who they invite onto like Question Time, and, you know, stuff like caving into the debates thing, where they said, oh no, you can't, you know, you're not going to get airtime for an interview if you won't agree to this interview. Was it with Andrew Neil? I think it was Andrew Neil. They immediately caved on that. And then the supposed mistakes, with air quotes, that we've had where they edit footage to make Johnson look like less of an awful human being, that somehow it never seems to, you know, happen with Jeremy Corbyn or any of the other party leaders. No, it somehow just seems to be Johnson. So, yeah, there does seem to be some rather blatant bias on the part of the BBC, and that coupled with the press. I mean, of the major news outlets, of the major broadcasters, it's basically Channel 4 News that's come out of this election with the most credibility left. And of particular note was the latest climate change debate, where Johnson didn't even bother to show up. And so they empty-chaired him with an ice sculpture that melted over the course of the entire debate. It's not like it's important or anything. It's not like it's, you know, shaping the future of the planet, but clearly it's not. Clearly he doesn't need to bother himself with such things. So, yeah, it's all been rather kind of infuriating, really, and it's not like Boris Johnson or any of the people in his cabinet, the likes of Gove and Priti Patel and Sajid Javid. It's not like they've tried to pretend or hide who they are, and so the kind of worrying, sickening thought is that there are a lot of people who are just okay with that. Apparently. That they're absolutely fine with all of the awful things he's said and done, of the, you know, the homophobia and the racism and whatever else, that he just has flat out refused to apologise for. Because, you know, why would you, obviously? Why would you apologise for saying racist or homophobic things? I mean, that's for other people that didn't go to Eton and Cambridge. I mean, come on now, be reasonable. Also, I'd better set my course closer towards the border, haven't I? So I can keep myself out of visual range, maybe? I don't know if I'm... mind you, this team's getting absolute pasting. This ship just... like the attack groups, 6 planes... It barely feels like an upgrade over the Furious, to be honest. The only true upgrade that there is with the torp bombers. Just still only drop 2 torps at a time, but you get 2 more of them compared to the Furious. So yeah, like that Richelieu's burning, but they're trying to heal at the same time. So let's pepper them with some. In fact, I should be doing this really. I've been very bad at it. Making my plane drop, so I've at least got some planes left to go out and strike people with. Implacable, it just feels a really good fit for how I'm feeling right now, because I've played 8 battles with it so far, and all of them were utter horrible defeats. So, you know, it's a nice kind of dejected, pessimistic ship for how things are going right now in this country with this election. I'm already out of full groups. The planes don't... I put on... this is a 19-point captain, by the way. They don't feel particularly tanky. This is at least good matchmaking for me. But I think the reason why I especially feel it with this ship is because the air groups aren't especially big. And it's not like you get super quick plane regen like the Kaga. I don't know. Anyway. So yeah, it's a depressing election. And there's Brexit looming in the background of it all, which is, you know, still the colossal mistake it ever was. But the interesting thing that this might lead to in terms of, you know, local Scottish politics is that there's a very strong real possibility that out of this will come an incredibly concerted effort for IndyRef 2 even, after only it being a couple of years from the last one. And honestly, you know, last time I voted how I voted, I was not in favour of it because there were just too many questions. And there's still going to be a bunch of questions, but oh boy, things have changed a little bit in just the last couple of years, you know? So what was true then is certainly not true now. And some of my questions remain, but at the same time, it's like, well, is England a country we really want to be shackled to if this is who they're voting for? knowing exactly who they're voting for? Liars and hypocrites? Apparently. You know, if the polls are correct. So at that point, well, the healthy thing would be to say adios. Has he got another heal back already? For goodness sake. Right, I mean, you know, this is lost. This is going to be lost in a row, number 9. 0% win rate. See if we can burn out this Richelieu at least. No, he got his damage control back. Apparently one of the things with this is that it has a higher flooding chance than some other carriers do. But you only get 2 torps per drop. So, you know, and flooding ain't what it used to be. It really isn't. Maybe this would have been a much more dangerous characteristic once upon a time, but now it just isn't. Where is everybody? So there's the Alba. Oh, there goes the Bayern. Yeah, this is going to be lost number 9. It feels overall rather ineffectual. Maybe that should have been the name of this ship, HMS Ineffectual. I'm sure the real life ship was a lot more capable than it is in game. But in game, it's kind of just sad. Especially in tier 10 games. Anyway, I'll with the magic of editing, we'll fast forward, we'll play another one of these, and I'll moan some more. I needed a good moan, you know? If the worst comes to the worst on election day tomorrow, then I don't even know. Might be an excuse to get drunk for the first time ever. I've literally never gotten drunk before, you know. I've been tipsy once or twice, but I am not a big drinker. God, this ship is so much fun. It's almost as fun as Brexit. Almost. I can't even really use the nice camo on it at the moment. I'm trying to grind through this as quickly as possible, so I've got the community contributor camo on, but I can't even remember what event it was from that gave you this. But it's not a bad looking camo. And the regular perma camo is, I guess, alright as well. Although a lot of the Royal Navy perma camos I'm not that enamoured with. I did buy the Dazzle camo for the... it wasn't just my Fuso. I think I forgot to mention this during that last... whenever it was, I did that last Fuso. Was it like a stream highlight? I showed off that camo. But yeah, Furious got Dazzle camo as well, which looks rather snazzy. Anyway, let's try again. See if I can finally get my first win in this on game number 10. Probably not. This is going to turn out to be one of those cursed ships. I can just feel it. Anyway, so what was I moaning about? I mean, I could have a moan a bit about Brexit, I suppose. There's just so much to moan about when it comes to Brexit. I mean, God, where do we even start? I mean, if nothing else, like even if we cannot now escape the gravitational pull of Brexit, dear Lord Jesus in heaven, I really don't want Boris Johnson in charge. I mean, if nothing else, he went away, managed to negotiate a worse deal than Theresa May had, and then hailed it as some kind of great success. Yeah, there's something a little bit Mussolini about the fella, really, isn't there? A little bit. He's not much of a one for actual humility or self-contemplation or, oh, I don't know, little things like telling the truth. I don't know, politicians don't exactly have a great reputation in that regard, but they tend not to be quite so flagrant or frequent abusers of the truth. But then, you know, we can look across the Atlantic and see that apparently that's just in vogue at the moment. Oh yeah, I wasn't going to have a moan about politics and not mention Donald Trump. I mean, come on now. I have, of course, as with everyone else, been watching all the impeachment stuff with avid interest. Boy, that Devin Nunes guy looks like he's really squeaky clean, doesn't he? Not strange or shifty or, you know, getting money from odd places at all. Hell, that's another thing Boris Johnson has said he won't do, is release the report that was commissioned into Russian influence. You know, money spent influencing our election is conveniently decided that we don't need to see that right now. Now's not an important time. It's not like we're having an election to decide the future outcome of Brexit or the, you know, direction of the country. It's not like it's an election where Russia would particularly have an interest in, say, perverting or distorting the outcome. I mean, no, that's just crazy talk. Yeah, such crazy talk. So yeah, they just like the Conservatives generally, the current crop at the top or at the bottom, as the case may be, of the Conservative heap, just they feel like they're up to their eyebrows in it. As do, I'm sure, many of the top Republicans probably seem in the exact same way. I should have made a drop here, shouldn't I, before sending my planes in? But this is a fairly tempting target. When you get these bigger blobs of higher tier AA there. Yeah, I really should have. Right, if somebody gets a fire on this Alaska... Let's have my other plane. My last surviving... Nope. That's always slightly irked me in this game. You don't get anything from... Like, if you set a single fire, say, and somebody extinguishes it, and then somebody else gets, you know, a triple fire with the next hit. You, as the player that set the fire that then got them to extinguish it, don't get any benefit from that. You've set somebody else up nicely for some damage, but there's no there's no kind of team play bonus. And I think that would be very nice if that was a thing in game. Just as an acknowledgement that, you know, sometimes you set people up to do things. But no, sadly that doesn't exist. Just like spotting damage doesn't really get you anything, which I have much lamented since I've been trying to get to grips with carrier play. Just from the fact that some games, quite often in games, I might end up with more spotting damage done than actual damage done, because I'm a bit of a noob when it comes to carriers. And you know, obviously it would be jolly nice to get some kind of acknowledgement or reward out of it, but that just doesn't exist within the game. I don't know if we can protect that Chung Mu at all, or if it's just going to get rocketed. It'd be nice if you could just, like, drop smoke for an ally. Nope. They got hit, and then that fire actually finished them off. Right, I'm going to drop this load of bombs, and then... I don't know, I've never really properly tried to get to grips with the catapult technique, or whatever it's called, the slingshot technique, so... my spacing is bound to be way off. Nope. Even though just those 3 ships is enough to completely shred my planes. Maybe I should try the other flank, I don't know. Maintaining present course. Right, let's actually make the drop this time. The biggest annoyance with the especially the rocket and the bomb squads is with only 6, if you make that one drop to try and preserve your planes, you're left with then 2 drops you can take against the enemy, and most of the time you will get to make one of those. It feels like it really makes your damage output suffer so badly. The only squad where that's not true is your torp bombers, but the torp bombers themselves don't do a lot of damage. And trying to rely on ticking flood damage to get more out of that, even if they do have a higher flood chance. Can I even drop safely here with this Nelson? charging in. I don't know that I can. But yeah, oh no, never mind, he died. Pinned through the nose.
Engaging enemy.
Yeah, this just feels like such a lackluster... Oh, Nelson, why did you have to die there? Such a lackluster ship.
We're under attack. Returning.
Right, so that was one drop. That other squad was never going to make it. Guess we'll continue to pepper this flank.
Present course. Approaching target.
There's still a lot of... Like, they've said this themselves, especially with how they're approaching the introduction of subs. They're really taking it quite slowly. But there's such a lot still to be done with carriers in terms of actual, like, individual carrier balance, I feel like. Mechanically, I think they got them, like, kind of where they want them to be.
We're under attack.
But I think in terms of the interaction between carriers and other classes of ships, and as I say, some of the individual carriers are just flat out bad.
We're under attack.
Like, this is probably a decent contender for, you know, one of the weakest ships for its tier.
Returning to ship. Taking fire.
Whereas at the moment, you know, you've got, say, the Hosho, which is being nerfed. Patch 8.11, which has already hit NA as of today, and possibly other servers, not sure. Yeah, that's been genuinely overpowered.
Engaging enemy.
Although, we've gone back to carriers being a bit of a problem at Tier 4 anyway. I suspect they're going to wait and see what happens with the rebalancing of Hosho. But there's still not a lot of AA going around, and it's maybe not as bad as it was previously with the RTS style, but when you're all but guaranteed double carrier games at Tier 4, then it gets awfully frustrating when you're in your Tier 3 or your Tier 4 battleship and you just can't do anything. You get the two carriers deciding to come after you, and that's it. You're too slow to maneuver. The proportion of your hit points that a carrier can take off is a lot higher than at higher tiers. And because torpedo hits in particular count as being heavy damage, it basically nukes the amount of health that you can get back as well. So low tier carriers absolutely are not finished. Right, it's the Jungmu, and can we even get around quick enough? Take a bit of a wild drop. Honestly, the British bombers are kind of naff. I think this is more the bomb spread pattern and just the amount of time it takes to get the bombs to fall. Oh, it's just a random drop. Try and come back with some rocket planes, I guess. It's not the most long-lasting smoke, but you know, they get a lot of it.
Maintaining present course.
Also, I'm not having a great feeling about how this game is going, but it's certainly not conclusively lost yet. Oh, we have a radar Neptune. Okay. Is he close enough to actually... Our carrier's just dropped a fighter there. There we go, that's being shredded by friendly AA. And this is certainly not going to be anything, you know, killer damage, but if it helps, it helps. Oh, no, that was a tad too early. Not that the rockets are any great reliable source of damage from British carriers either, at least not up to Tier 8. But if they get particularly better at Tier 10. So we can keep them spotted a tiny bit longer. Can we get the drop? Can we get the drop? Nope. Let's just call them back. Right, well, we've stopped them capping, but yeah, they have double the points. I might even need to turn around again, so I'm feeling a tad vulnerable on this flank. Depends if the guys around the KGV are particularly aggressive. Let's go and poke around, actually.
Approaching target.
I cannot afford to lose this cap. Right, there goes the Amalfi. That's useful. God, I want to believe that after 10 goes, this might finally be my first win.
We're under attack.
It gets just a tiny wee bit disheartening when, you know, you've been playing for like 3 hours or however long that equates to and haven't managed to win a single game. Some of them I don't think it would have mattered whatever ship I was in, but others it becomes painfully apparent that my influence in this carrier is that much less than it would be in a ship that I could, you know, shoot stuff with. Compared to the rather lackluster nature of the attack planes on this. North Carolina's over on the flank somewhere. But, you know, they are imminently pushing the decap, so I guess that's the more important one right now. Come on, we're bringing this back. I want to believe. I want to believe. Oh, I think I got a fire on somebody as well. That's nice. Although they have just put it out. But that means if I get lucky with a flooding...
We're under attack. Engaging enemy.
Anyway, he's going very slowly. Ooh, there goes the Neptune. Neptune torps have done him a nasty. Come on, come on. Bit of damage. Oh, never mind. Oh, that's a weird little bug. It does that sometimes, even when you're playing. I mean, quite apart from how messed up the UI is in replays, or, well, non-existent it partly is. Let's try and drop a fighter for that Bismarck. Nice dodge. I'll have to try and set up on the broad side of this KGV. Which way are you turning? Oh, that was a bit... Oh, no. I wasn't quite quick enough to save that plane. Nigel, to borrow the oft-used name from War Thunder, wasn't quite quick enough to, you know, climb out on the wing with some duct tape, which is totally how that heal works. Let's just call back that last one. Right, nope, no flooding. Let's try hitting them with the... oh gosh, Bismarck and North Carolina. Right, we're going to turn back this way again. God, this is... I really haven't done a lot of damage here, have I? It's one of those games where it's absolutely come down to it. Like, this is... We could win this! We could! Just need people not to die. I mean, our Brindisi is literally backed into a corner, but the mass B might be able to get some effective fire, although I don't even know if they'll be able to see up there at the moment.
We're under attack.
Right, Musashi, don't give him Citadel to shoot at, Musashi. Just don't do it. Well, this is another annoyance of this, just because the aiming ellipse, how it is. You only have to turn a little bit for most of the bomb drop to miss. Oh, he's... Okay, I couldn't see who was passing who in which direction there. Oh, that's a wasted drop he's going to burn, but never mind. I might ninja the kill. Right, and also the Bismarck's done, the Mass B, and it looks like their Friedrich de Grosse is actually AFK.
Airborne.
No idea where the Implacable is. Right, we can bring this back. Not the Bismarck, the North Carolina, whatever it was, that died. Nice, good job, Brindisi. Okay, we've got this. Let's just steam it all the way down there. Good, it's happening, and I'm not even breaking 50k, but, you know, I don't even care at this point. I just want the win. I just want the win. 12 rockets, 18 bomb drops, 2 fires. Okay.
Victory is in sight.
That's the problem of having a carrier that relies on being able to get some damage over time going, is you are, in that regard, pretty well at the mercy of RNG. So that's fun. Obviously, the more strikes you make, the better it evens out in the end.
Target.
Goodness knows where that Implacable is, but maybe I can spot them. I really just want a fire on this DeGrosser, who we can't even report for being AFK. I need to report myself as well, actually. Some people came to my door earlier, and I had to bail out right at the start of the game. Inadvertently hit reverse. Ended up reversing into the border, and being the last one left alive. So I've probably got a few reports there. Although I did say explicitly in the chat after the game had started that I had to go to the door and that I was very sorry. But, you know, not everyone pays attention to the chat or even speaks English. Well, no fires, so that was nice, I guess. At least I got over 50k. Hooray! Yeah, I really don't know what this carrier's supposed to be good at. Like, at least the Graf Zeppelin has some kind of shtick. It's got something. It's got some kind of gimmick. Even if it went from being wildly overpowered to now being not very fun or useful.
Our team has taken the
But
lead.
Implacable doesn't even have the, you know, the AP dive bombs or the secondaries. It's just got a big pile of meh. Honestly, Furious was more fun to play. And Ark Royal, actually. Ark Royal's surprisingly capable for all that it has the string bags. Ark Royal at tier 6 gets to drop more torpedoes at a time than this does. Anyway, hooray, I did over 50,000. I probably had a bunch of spotting damage, but you know, you don't get awarded for spotting damage because reasons. 63,000, so another game where I did more spotting damage than actual damage done. Yeah, no flooding damage, barely any fire damage. Oh well, RNGesus was not kind. So, Brexit, boo. Tory party, boo. HMS ineffectual, also boo. Just a big pile of boo. In fact, I probably won't even get drunk tomorrow. That's not really my style. I'll just buy, you know, some tubs of Ben & Jerry's or something. And eat myself into an ice cream coma. Anyway, it's going to be a day tomorrow. Whatever the result is, it's going to be some kind of day. So, yeah. If you follow me on Twitter, expect lots of salt there, probably. Not that there hasn't been enough already in the last little while. So, that's it for this bit of live recorded whinging. Let's call it what it is. Hopefully you at least found it some way vaguely entertaining to witness me in my existential pain. And if you did, you can hit the like button, subscribe, all that jazz. And as always, stay tuned for more.